My son tried to sell my land without asking, but the buyer called me first. Henry Ford is tending to his garden when his phone rings. A polite real estate developer introduces himself. Mr. Ford, I'm calling to confirm the sale of your 40-acre property. Your son mentioned you were eager to close quickly. Henry's blood runs cold. He never authorized any sale. His hands tremble as he grips the phone. I think there's been some mistake, he manages. The buyer sounds confused. Your son David has all the preliminary paperwork. Said you gave him full authority. Henry's world tilts as betrayal crashes over him like a tidal wave. Henry forces his voice to remain steady. What exactly did my son tell you? The buyer explains cheerfully. He said you're getting older, want to simplify your affairs. Smart move, really, this land's worth serious money in today's market. Each word is a knife twist. This land has been in Henry's family for 3 generations. His father built the farmhouse with his own hands. Henry's children took their first steps on this soil. How much was discussed? Henry asks. $850,000, comes the reply. Henry's knees nearly buckle. His son is selling his heritage for less than half its true value. Henry thanks the buyer and hangs up, his mind reeling. For months, his son David and daughter-in-law Linda have been visiting more frequently, asking detailed questions about the property, questions he'd mistaken for genuine interest in family history. How many acres exactly, Dad? What's the property worth these days? Have you ever thought about downsizing? Every innocent query now reveals its true predatory nature. Henry walks through his house seeing it with new eyes. They've been casing their own theft. His wedding photos with Martha, his late wife, seem to watch him with sad understanding. She always said David had a greedy streak. David arrives for their weekly dinner, swagger in his step, designer clothes that his teacher's salary couldn't afford. Henry sets the trap. Interesting call I got today from a Mr. Peterson about selling the land. David doesn't even flinch. Instead, he smirks. Dad, you're 72 years old. This place is too much for you to handle. I'm doing you a favor. The casual dismissal hits Henry like a slap. A favor? By forging my signature? David shrugs. I didn't forge anything. I just expedited the process. This land should have been mine years ago anyway. Linda nods in agreement, her silence speaking volumes. Henry turns to Linda, hoping for an ally, someone with sense. Linda, surely you understand this is wrong. But Linda's response destroys him. Henry, David's right. You're rattling around in this big house alone, barely managing the upkeep. It makes financial sense. Her voice is calm, rational, as if discussing the weather rather than stealing his life's work. Besides, she continues, applying lipstick in his hallway mirror, it's family land. David has every right to make decisions about the family's future. Henry realizes that his son married someone just as cold and calculating as himself. After they leave, Henry stands alone in his kitchen, trembling with rage and heartbreak. Through the window, he can see the oak tree where he built David a treehouse 30 years ago, the garden where Martha grew her prize-winning tomatoes, the barn where David learned to drive on an old tractor. Every inch of this land holds memories, sacrifice, love. His father cleared these fields by hand during the Depression. His grandfather bought this property with money saved from working in factories. 3 generations of Ford sweat and dreams, and David wants to sell it for quick cash. Over my dead body, Henry whispers to the empty house. Henry calls Mr. Peterson back, carefully controlling his voice. I apologize for the confusion earlier. I'm still considering the offer, but I need more details. Peterson is eager to please, of course. Your son mentioned you might have some memory concerns. Said you sometimes forget conversations. Henry's grip tightens on the phone. David is painting him as senile to justify the fraud. He also suggested we move quickly before you change your mind again. The manipulation is breathtaking in its cruelty. Peterson continues, honestly, your son seems very concerned about your well-being. What a devoted family. The next morning, Henry drives to First National Bank, where he's held accounts for 40 years. Martha's friend Carol works in customer service and greets him warmly. Henry. How lovely to see you. How can I help? Henry explains his situation carefully, watching Carol's expression shift from friendly to alarmed. Let me check your recent account activity, she says, typing rapidly. Her face darkens. Henry, someone has been making inquiries about your accounts, trying to get information about property deeds and titles. They claim to have power of attorney. Henry's heart sinks. My son. Carol nods grimly. We didn't give them anything, but... Carol calls her manager, Tom Richards, who's known Henry since the 1980s. Tom's face shows genuine anger as he reviews the attempted access logs. Henry, this is serious. Someone has been very persistent about getting access to your accounts and property information. We've documented everything, but I need to ask, did you give anyone permission for this? Henry shakes his head. Tom continues, there are laws against this kind of financial exploitation, especially targeting seniors. If you want to pursue this legally, we have evidence. Henry feels a spark of hope. What do you recommend? Tom smiles grimly. Let's make sure your assets are completely protected. And then let's catch them in the act. Tom shows Henry the security footage from previous weeks, David and Linda visiting the bank, speaking in hushed, urgent tones with different tellers, always asking about Henry's accounts. They came in separately, Tom explains, probably thinking it would look less suspicious. The footage shows David's confident swagger, Linda's fake concerned expressions as they spin lies about Henry's supposed declining mental state. They claimed you were becoming forgetful, that family needed to step in for your protection. Each lie burns into Henry's memory. These people have been systematically destroying his reputation while planning to rob him blind. At the next family dinner, David arrives with a briefcase full of papers. Dad, I've got everything ready to finalize the land sale. Just need your signature on a few documents. He spreads papers across Henry's dining room table, the same table where they'd shared countless holiday meals. Henry pretends to study them, playing confused. This is very complicated, son. I'm not sure I understand. David's patience snaps. Dad, it's simple. You sign here, here, and here. I handle everything else. You don't need to worry your old brain about the details. Linda laughs. David, be nice. Your father's doing his best. But her tone is mocking, condescending. Henry excuses himself to use the bathroom but stops in the hallway when he hears David and Linda whispering in the kitchen. He's stalling, David says, frustration clear in his voice. I promised Peterson we'd have the signatures by Friday. Linda's response chills Henry's blood, maybe we need to push harder. Suggest he's getting more confused, that waiting is dangerous for everyone. David agrees, once we get the money from the sale, it won't matter what he thinks. He'll be too broke to fight us in court. They're planning to steal his land and leave him destitute. Henry grips the wall to steady himself. Henry returns to the dining room with an Academy Award-worthy performance of defeat. You know what? You're probably right. I am getting older, and this place is a lot of work. David and Linda exchange triumphant glances. Maybe it is time to let someone younger handle these big decisions. David practically purrs with satisfaction. Dad, you're making the right choice. We'll take care of everything. Henry nods meekly. Just, give me tonight to say goodbye to the place properly. I'll sign everything tomorrow. David claps him on the shoulder. Of course, Dad. Take all the time you need. As they leave, Henry hears Linda tell David, finally. I was starting to think the old fool would never give up. That night, Henry sits in his study, Martha's old sewing room that he'd converted after her death, surrounded by legal documents, property deeds and family records. He calls Tom Richards at home. "Tom, it's Henry. I need to implement the plan we discussed, and I need it done tonight." Tom doesn't hesitate. "I'll meet you at the bank in an hour." Henry also calls his lawyer, Patricia Mills, who's handled his family's legal affairs for decades. "Patricia, I need an emergency will revision and some very specific property protections." By dawn, Henry has restructured everything. David and Linda are about to discover that some battles can't be won with lies and manipulation. The next morning brings an unexpected call. "Mr. Ford. This is James Mitchell from Mitchell Development Corporation. I understand you might be interested in selling your property." Henry is cautious. He's had enough of mysterious buyers. "How did you get my information?" James laughs. "Actually, your land came highly recommended. I specialize in preserving historic properties while developing them responsibly. I'd like to make you an offer that reflects your land's true value, both financial and historical." Henry's pulse quickens. This could be the key to his revenge. "What kind of offer?" $2 million, with guaranteed preservation of the original farmhouse and your family cemetery. I believe in honoring legacy, not destroying it. Henry calls David with barely contained excitement in his voice. "Son, I've had a change of heart about the sale. There's been a new development, and I think we should meet at the bank this afternoon to discuss it." David sounds wary. "What kind of development?" Henry plays his part perfectly. "Another buyer has shown interest. I think we should explore all options before signing anything, don't you?" David's voice sharpens. "Dad, we already have a deal with Peterson. You can't just back out now." Henry can hear David's panic. "I'm not backing out, just being thorough. Meet me at First National at 2 p.m. Bring Linda and all the paperwork." David storms into First National Bank with Linda trailing behind, his face red with barely controlled anger. Henry sits calmly in Tom Richards' office, surrounded by witnesses, Tom, Patricia Mills, James Mitchell, and even Carol from customer service. "Dad, what is this circus?" David demands. "I thought we agreed you'd sign the papers today." Henry smiles serenely. "I did agree to sign papers today, son. Just not necessarily the papers you brought." David's eyes narrow as he notices James Mitchell. "Who's this?" James extends his hand professionally. "James Mitchell, Mitchell Development. I'm here to discuss a potential property purchase." David doesn't shake his hand. "We already have a buyer." Tom Richards speaks up with official banking authority. "Before we proceed with any discussions, I need to address some concerning activity on Mr. Ford's accounts." David shifts uncomfortably. "What activity?" Tom opens a thick file. Multiple unauthorized attempts to access account information, inquiries about property deeds, and claims of power of attorney that we have no record of. Linda goes pale. "There must be some misunderstanding." Tom's voice is ice-cold professional. "The security footage and documented attempts suggest otherwise. Mr. Ford, would you like to explain to everyone present what's been happening?" Henry looks directly at his son. "David, would you like to tell everyone why Mr. Peterson thinks he has a deal to buy my land?" David tries to maintain his composure. "Dad's been having some memory issues lately. I was just trying to help him manage his affairs." Patricia Mills, Henry's lawyer, interrupts sharply. "Mr. Ford, I've reviewed your father's medical records. His doctor reports no cognitive decline whatsoever." David's face flushes darker. "Well, he's been acting confused about financial matters." Henry stands slowly. "Confused? Or deliberately cautious when my own son tries to steal my land?" The room goes deadly silent. James Mitchell looks shocked. Tom Richards begins taking notes. Linda grabs David's arm, but he shakes her off. "I wasn't stealing anything. It's family land." Henry reaches into his jacket and pulls out a small digital recorder. David, since you claim you were just helping with my confused state, perhaps you'd like everyone to hear this recording from last night. He presses play. David and Linda's voices fill the office. Once we get the money from the sale, it won't matter what he thinks. He'll be too broke to fight us in court. The room erupts. James Mitchell actually gasps. Tom Richards shakes his head in disgust. Patricia Mills is already making notes for criminal charges. David lunges for the recorder, but Tom blocks him. Don't make this worse, son, Tom warns. Linda starts crying, but they're tears of panic, not remorse. Other bank customers have begun gathering outside Tom's office, drawn by the raised voices and obvious drama. Through the glass walls, Henry can see people whispering, pointing, recognizing David, the respected high school teacher, the pillar of the community. Please, David whispers desperately, can we discuss this privately? But Henry is done with private humiliation. You wanted to handle my affairs publicly, son. You involved bank personnel, real estate agents, lawyers. Now we finish this publicly. James Mitchell stands to leave. Mr. Ford, I think I should go. This is clearly a family matter. Henry stops him. Actually, Mr. Mitchell, I'd like you to stay. I believe we have business to discuss. Henry turns to James Mitchell with dignity intact. Mr. Mitchell, your offer of $2 million for my property, does that still stand? James nods, clearly impressed by Henry's handling of the situation. Absolutely. After witnessing this, I'm even more convinced you're exactly the kind of person I want to do business with. David explodes, $2 million. Dad, you can't be serious. Peterson offered $850,000. James looks at David with obvious distaste. Your unauthorized offer was for less than half the property's market value. Were you planning to pocket the difference? The mathematics of David's theft become clear to everyone present. He wasn't just stealing the land, he was stealing at a discount and keeping the profit. David drops to his knees beside Henry's chair, no longer caring about dignity or appearances. Dad, please. I made a mistake, okay? I was desperate. Linda's been pushing me, saying we needed to secure our future. Linda's eyes flash with fury at being thrown under the bus, but David continues, I never meant to hurt you. You're my father. I love you. Tears stream down his face, but Henry has seen this performance before. Every time David got caught as a child, the same tears, the same promises to do better. David, Henry says quietly, if you loved me, you wouldn't have tried to steal everything I've worked for. The room watches in uncomfortable silence as a grown man begs his father for forgiveness he doesn't deserve. Linda suddenly stands up, her face hard with calculation. Henry, I want you to know that this was all David's idea. I tried to talk him out of it. David stares at her in shock. Linda, what are you doing? She continues coldly, I told him it was wrong to deceive you, but he insisted you'd never know the difference. Her betrayal of her own husband is breathtaking. She's trying to save herself by throwing David completely under the bus. Tom Richards shakes his head in disgust. Mrs. Ford, we have you on security footage making inquiries alongside your husband. Linda's face crumbles as she realizes her lie won't work. But the damage to David is done, even his wife has abandoned him when the consequences arrived. Henry stands and walks to the window overlooking Main Street, the town where he's lived his entire life. When he turns back, his voice is calm, measured, final. David, you taught me something important today. You showed me that blood doesn't make family, character does. Mr. Mitchell, I accept your offer. He shakes James's hand firmly. Tom, please proceed with whatever legal action is appropriate for attempted financial fraud. David starts to protest, but Henry holds up a hand. Patricia, please ensure my will reflects my final wishes, everything goes to charity when I die. David, you wanted my land so badly you were willing to steal it. Now you'll never have it, never profit from it, and never inherit anything from me. Henry walks toward the door, pausing only to say, the sweetest revenge isn't anger, son. It's success. And I just succeeded in protecting my legacy from people who never deserved it. Some betrayals are so deep they sever bonds forever. But when family chooses greed over love, the only victory is walking away with your dignity, and your assets, intact.